And good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rodney.
Good morning. How you doing there?
I'm doing really well. I hope you've had great holidays.
I did. I did. I had a really relaxing holiday. Boy, I tell you, the rain really came down here in Southern California. It
That's
was
what I
raining.
heard.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
we
was
had a
all over
lot.
the news.
Yeah, and actually, apparently, where I live, there was a small tornado that touched down because
Oh,
it actually bent some supports on my awning that was over my parking area. So
mm-hmm.
it was pretty, yeah, right here in my driveway, and so I was like, "Gee," so I gotta get out and do a little gotta do a little work,
Mm-hmm.
here to kinda shore things up. Yeah, it was just a very, very strong wind that came through, and it came through apparently at an angle that normally the wind goes this way for some weird reason, and it doesn't really disturb anything. This time the wind came this way, and that's
Oh,
what and someone at my church actually was telling me that his place of business, it actually literally ripped up a storage, you know, a storage shed that he has and just blew it away. And he says
whoa.
he's been here 25 years. He goes, nothing like that has ever happened before. And he goes, it just really twisted up a lot of stuff and ripped the roof off. And so it's not pretty, but thank God everybody's okay, for the most part, um,
We
but
had
yeah,
a
we're
big
all
something come through here just before Christmas, too, and actually blew
yikes.
down some telephone poles.
Mhm.
So,
Wow.
yeah, not the same system, I don't think, but still, weather is
Mhm. Well,
amazing.
good yeah, well, good morning, AC, and we have a new person that just popped on, and it's,
Lucas. Hi,
yeah,
Lucas.
Lucas. Hey, oh, no, I
Glad you're
remember
joining us
Lucas.
this
How are you,
morning.
Lucas? Lucas popped
Yeah.
on, yep,
And welcome to
and,
all of you. If you're just now joining us, you're watching the This Way Network. We are the chat session lineup on the This Way
yeah,
Network. There's my co-host Rodney Allen Rippey, and I'm
yeah,
Nina. And
yeah,
we've just been talking about the weather that they've been having out in California, which made all the news
yeah,
because the rains were so heavy. They were really concerned about more mudslides there. Yeah.
mhm.
I was
Yeah,
wondering how you all fared, so I'm glad to get this report.
well, they actually and there is kinda like a water runoff area that I mean, normally before the rains, I mean, it was pretty deep. I mean, you could look down into like a little ravine. This thing had like filled in, like, and then they were the other day I went down the street and they had all these bulldozers out there and tractors and trucks, and it was
Mm.
like they were scooping up all of this sediment that had washed into this area. And I think they were really, really concerned about it because this thing was, I mean, literally about 10 feet deep, maybe 15
Whoa.
feet deep. This thing was like kind of up towards the road. So if the water started, it would just like completely wash over the street,
Mhm,
the city
mhm.
street. So I think they were out there kind of trying to cut some ravines and things in it. So I was like, wow. So yeah,
Yeah.
we had a lot of what they call material transfer because there were rocks and dirt and everything that came down. So very interesting. Yep.
I wanted to ask you, Rodney, this is kind of like off topic a little
Mhm.
bit, but I just saw something the other day about the state auditor's report.
The state
And
auditor out here in
yeah,
California.
yes, the California state auditor's
Ooh,
report.
uh-oh. This sounds
Yeah.
good. You know what? I have been pretty busy on a couple of projects, and I have just been really just like entrenched in it, and I haven't been kind of following it. But you might know something. What did you see?
So what it said was that the auditor is showing that basically $76 billion
Mhm.
is Well, maybe not missing, but kind
They're
of
gonna
like some of
donate it
it's
to the
missing.
chat session. That's
Yeah,
it. They're
some
gonna
of it's missing, some of it is unaccounted for, some of it has
no,
gone toward
no.
things for which, uh, what it was designated for, it never got to that. So,
Yikes.
yeah, and, one of the things, I remember noting on it was how much
Mhm,
money had been
mhm.
poured into that high-speed rail project, like a
Mhm.
bullet train, and they've
Right.
been working on that for years. They've sunk all this money into it, now they've scrapped the project completely. And
Wow.
so, there's nothing to show for all that money that got sunk into it. But it wasn't just that. It was like that was only accounted for like 1 billion. And they were talking he was the auditor. It was a scathing
Mhm.
report. And it was talking about how, so much money had literally gone down the hole. Money that was supposed to go to certain projects, those projects aren't even off the ground.
Right,
And it's
right.
been years and they're like, "So where is that money?" So this was
Yikes.
pretty stunning to me. I'd never, you know,
Mhm.
never heard of anything that big before coming from a state auditor.
Well, they have, it's funny you mentioned that. They have things like that that happen, and I guarantee you they will dig until they get some answers, and they will find out. It might take them a little while, but when someone starts talking like that, and a lot of times people are very concerned about certain services and things like that,
Mhm,
and that light rail, it was something that was on its way, and everybody's been talking about this, and they were saying it was gonna be a train that went from here out towards Las Vegas, and
mhm,
you could get there in an hour and something, or, and just, I mean, because it was gonna be a very fast, straight shot to,
mhm.
and it was gonna really benefit, you know, transportation, but, these are those type of things that I don't know how they could misplace that much money, but I guess somebody
It was
did.
yeah, like I said, it wasn't just the rail. They were talking in the areas of education and public
Mhm,
works and,
mhm,
so many other areas where they were saying and it was almost just across the board. And
mhm.
frankly, the auditor's report, and I don't know what his political affiliation is, so I don't know how
Right,
much this
right.
part of it is political, but it
Mhm.
was pretty damning of
Wow.
Governor Newsom that, like almost all of this has happened under his tenure. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm hoping, well, see, these are those things that I try to think about the I think that they have to have better, um, oversight of these type of things, and I mean, honestly, when they say something is gonna start, hopefully it will,
Mhm,
and if not, they need to have more information of why it didn't happen and when it will start and things
mhm,
like that, so
mhm. I
I
do remember one of the things it
oh,
named was after the fires.
mhm,
How much money from the government was supposed to be going toward rebuilding and you know, helping some of the worst hit neighborhoods,
right, right,
and they were saying, and so far,
mhm.
nothing has happened with that.
Well,
The money supposedly is there, but
mhm.
we're not seeing any fruit from it. So
Mm.
they're wondering, well, where did that go? So
Well,
anyway, I'm
I
not
know
trying to hold you to account, obviously, but
no, oh,
I was
no,
just
no,
wondering
you
if you
trust
heard
me,
that, what you thought
I'm
about
not
it.
worried I'm not worried about that one, but it's a thing that, Pacific Palisades and also the city of Altadena, there were a
Mhm,
lot of families that were in Altadena, and the sad thing about it is many people had been there for many, many years, and I mean, they were up in age, and I mean, they were at their golden years. I mean, they've been there 20, 30 years. Beautiful area. Everything there is, $1,000,000, especially
mhm,
over in Altadena because the area is just gorgeous. And many people could not afford to rebuild. And then it was kind of like these predatory people started coming in that were corporations and very cash heavy, and they were just buying up lots like, "Oh, well, how do you feel? Are you having trouble rebuilding? Well, we can give you some money to hit the
Mhm.
road. And
Mhm.
many people are afraid of what that part of town is going to become, how it's
Mhm.
going to, how it's going to turn out, who's going to come in. Are they just going to start setting up mansions and just start taking 2 and 3 lots and start building these,
Mhm.
monolithic homes where people are just like, where does this thing come from? And
Mhm.
so people don't know. I mean, it's really a tough time. And it's a sad time because they're trying to figure out where these support dollars are coming. But I have heard some very good news. Some people said they are rebuilding. There are people who were a little more prepared than others, and they're breaking ground. They're right back where they were, and they're building their homes back, probably more beautiful and bigger than ever, or just as good as they had.
I'm
But
glad to hear that.
yeah,
Very glad
I
to
mean,
hear that.
there are some success stories. There are,
Mhm.
and there's some challenging things. So hopefully, you know what? And I have a dear friend. She's a photojournalist. Her name is Catherine Bachnight, and
Mhm.
Catherine lived there. Literally, the fire burned like 2 blocks from her house, and it stopped. The
Wow.
smoke alone was so heavy that she had to come in, and they literally had to strip her walls, like take the sheetrock off because of the toxicity of
Yeah,
the
the smoke
smoke.
damage. Yeah.
And then she started having this terrible cough, and so it was pretty bad because she was trying to hang in there. Her house stood, but they had to come in and do a lot of, work and many people had to go through this because all of their belongings were just smoked out, and it's just pretty sad, pretty sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. I keep
But
thinking about them,
Mhm.
about people in the,
Mhm.
still going through what they're going through in, North Carolina after
Of
Hurricane
course.
Helene, East Tennessee.
Mhm.
And right now there's a big winter storm in the middle of the country.
Yeah. Well, that storm, I mean, this thing kinda swept through, and so hopefully things will we have to pray about that it'll stay stable and not be so rough because it is, between the rain damage and the flooding and things like that, it's pretty challenging times. But, we're here. And so today's topic is, a blessed plan for a bright 2026. That's what we're talking about today. And so how can we make 2026 better than 2025? I mean, we are are
Mhm.
hours away, literally hours away to closing out
Mhm.
2025, and we have a blessed hope for a new year, and
Mhm.
hopefully, so are there any plans that you might have, that things that you maybe didn't complete in 2025 that you're saying, "Okay, well, we're moving it to 2026?"
I have plenty of those, plenty
Yeah,
of
me
those.
too. Yeah.
But I tell you,
Yep, yep, yep.
and you came up with this topic, Rodney, and thank you for that. You always come up with such great topics. The first thing I thought, well, you've got it. What can I say? When you've got it,
Teamwork, teamwork. Yeah.
but when I first saw the topic, my first thought was, preparing for a bright 2026,
Mhm.
uh, and having a blessed year. And I thought, man, the first and foremost thing that I can think of is do everything you can to get close to and know Jesus.
Bingo, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And you're abs and, I tell you, now more than ever, we can look in our news and, you really look at things and you go, "Man, things are pretty challenging," within communities and
Mhm.
some of the things that we see going on in communities and families. I'm like, "Man, people better start praying," because,
Mhm.
some of the stuff is so heartless, and you're like, "Come on," and some people, the biggest thing in the world that's a problem is when people go, "Oh, well, there's no such thing as a devil, and there's no such thing as anything evil," and I'm like, "Seriously? Seriously?"
Yeah.
I'm like, And I'm like, come on now, and some people they have to kind of look at this thing and I understand some people they see evil as well. It's just mental illness. But I'm like, no. I mean, because some of this stuff is planned out, it's thought out, and
Mhm.
and there are certain elements that increase it.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
bullying, it's
Yeah.
substance
Yeah.
abuse, it's
Yeah.
unresolved issues, it's complete and total misinformation.
Mhm.
It is things on the internet where people and this is what I was talking to a friend of mine about. I go, we must seriously at this day and time right now, when you see something, don't react. You better check the source because there is stuff out here that's online that looks real and it will make you angry. You're like, what? I can't believe that. You'll get all up in arms about it, and the whole thing is made up. And
Mhm.
why somebody
Mhm.
would wanna deceive people to that level of Chinooking people, and
Mhm.
I'm like, so now, my mom always said, God bless her and rest her soul, my mom would say, "Rodney," and she told me this when I was a child, and I never forgot it. She said, "Believe half of what you see and even less of what you hear."
Mhm. That's
And
good
I
advice.
because I'm telling you, because some of the things you see, you go, "I can't believe it." You better believe it. You
Mhm.
better believe it, and you better think about it, and when you see it, because half of the things that we see really aren't. I mean, because this stuff is being made up. Half
Mhm.
of the things we hear is because of what somebody else thought or is their opinion on how it should really be, and no, I mean, because you gotta check the facts, and you gotta check the messenger.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and Mia Piles, our wonderful guest that always comes on from Pain Unwasted. She's not here, but we're still plugging her. She's wonderful.
Oh,
But
yeah. Yeah, she
Pain
is.
Unwasted, with Mia Piles, you could definitely just Google her. She's fantastic. And
I think
the
she's gonna
thing
be back with us in February. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
I'm excited about that.
Yep, yep, yep. And that's a wonderful thing. Elvira says in 2026, I intend to submit completely to God's plan. Wow, that's awesome. Yep, that's a good thing. I mean, his plan ain't
I
gonna
can
hurt.
encourage that for sure.
Yeah, a lot of times, and that's another thing. People think like, oh, well, that could be overwhelming. Not really. I think the overwhelming part is when we kind of veer off on our own. And I see life kind of like a highway. And if you stay on the highway and it's well lit, you're okay. I mean, just hold it in the lane and be cool and
Mhm.
but sometimes some people go, I just feel like adventure. I'm gonna I'm gonna dive off the highway and go four-wheeling. I'm like,
Yeah.
watch out for the rocks, careful, you don't want to, I think that sometimes we drive ourselves into things and and that's another thing to be aware. And me personally, I'm trying to think about 2025 and I'm like, okay, that didn't work. Let's
Mhm.
assess.
Mhm.
Let's plan on a brighter, more productive 2026. And so matter of fact, I have a humongous opportunity, which I was talking to you about. Actually, this is something that is pending, which I need prayer and support for. This is something that is called Stream Expo. And so,
Ah,
yeah, this is
is that
pretty
is
cool.
that a float I'm seeing on there? Like, oh,
Well,
yeah, it's
well,
Float Fest.
yeah, Float Fest, and I'll tell you what it is. Float Fest is part of the Tournament of Roses parade. Do you know the Tournament of Roses has about 700 to 800,000 people on the streets of Pasadena, California, watching the parade? But
Mhm.
there are so many media outlets out there videotaping and sharing it, and they have agreed to all share the content so that everybody kind of gets their angle on this thing, but everybody's broadcasting out. They say between 40 to 80 million people around the world watch the Tournament of Roses parade.
Mhm.
Well, that's on January 1st. Well, what happens is at the end of the parade, they take a few of the select floats, some of the most beautiful floats, and they stage them in an area, and they call that Float Fest. Float Fest. And so now, if you missed it or you just want to get up close and personal, you can come back in and see these floats. Well, there's about 100,000 people that flow through this exhibit over a 3-day period. I have an opportunity to produce something called Stream Expo, which is an acronym for science, technology, research, engineering, the arts, and math. So I called the Tournament of Roses, moi, and with my little blessed creativity, I gave him a call and I said, hey, listen, there's a lot of people coming through there year after year. Have you ever thought about something with an educational hook? And they said, well, Mr. Rippey, we actually have thought about that, and we would like to have that. I was like, really? Well, guess what? I actually have something. So I submitted it, and they like it. There's a little problem. They're in order for me to do this, there is a $20,000 reserve for me to have access to this foot traffic. So I will be positioned right next or adjacent to Float Fest. So when all those people flow through, they flow through my venue.
Right.
So, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I have put this thing out to JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. I have sent this to the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce. I have sent this to the Pasadena Unified School District. I have sent this thing to the Pasadena Housing Authority so people can come and be educated about job opportunities and
Mhm.
where things are going. I'm looking for every business in the area. If they fall under science, technology, research, engineering, the arts, and math, or anything, which so many things include these things, I want them to come. They can take a booth. And I mean, I'm giving the value. I'm like, listen, for the cost to have a booth and to have access to roughly 70,000 to 100,000 people over a 3-day period, businesses should be just jumping at this opportunity because I want to set this thing up. And so I'm praying. So I need prayer. I need sponsorship. I need help. I need booths because this is also a huge opportunity for me to prove that science and technology and all these things are very important. I'm hoping that the city will get involved. I'm hoping that all of the entities that I'm trying to talk to, I've reached out to Fender Guitar. I've reached out to Floyd Rose Guitar. Matter of fact, on the 3rd, a dear friend of mine named Toby Hero, he's going to be performing with a all-star cast of musicians. And these guys are all heavyweights. They've all played with big VIP, music artists from around the world. So he's got this great lineup of people, and they're called Brown Sound. And then he also has the Toby Hero All Stars. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to put this thing together, and I'm trying to take care of him, and I'm also trying to take care of my event. So it is a 18-hour day up until
Wow.
midweek. So it is not gonna stop. And I'm faithfully. I went to church on Sunday and prayed and had people pray for me and pray for this project because I really want this thing to be successful. And I want it to be good for businesses. I'm as my outbound messaging is, I'm like, this is an opportunity for your business to be attached to the biggest kickoff of 2026. That's
Mhm.
just the truth. There's nothing bigger here in Southern California than the Tournament of Roses. Nothing. There's nothing
I
going
would
on.
Yeah, I would venture to
Yeah.
say maybe even across the country with that many
Well,
people who tune in
well,
for the
see,
parade.
well, we have the Tournament of Roses, but in New York, you have the Macy Day Parade.
Oh,
So,
that's true. That's true.
right. So they have theirs, but on the West Coast, let me tell you something. Nothing out here is bigger than the Tournament of Roses. That thing is 100 and some odd years old. The star power. Oh, uh, the uh, what do you call him? He's the Grand Marshal. The Grand
Mhm.
Marshal is Magic Johnson from the Lakers. I've actually reached out to Magic. I will be sending him this video as well. Mr. Johnson, I kind of need to talk to you. Definitely give me a call because I want to honor the Laker organization. Also, I must say, a colleague, a little bird, helped me get in contact with Jeannie Buss, who owns the Lakers.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. So we are trying to work all the magic we have. If you only could see the stacks and stacks of cards that I have, all of my contacts. I know it's very unorthodox the way that I do this, but when I'm telling you, when I have, you know, all of these city officials and
Mm,
cities after city, I mean, cities, I'm trying to get them to come and be a part of this. And
mm,
I have reached out to the Chamber of Commerce for the city of Pasadena, the Chamber of Commerce for Azusa, which is nearby. I've reached
mhm,
out to the Chamber of Commerce for Morovia, which is close, and the city of Los Angeles. There are, between the four of them, there are thousands of businesses in each one of these Chamber of Commerce. I understand a lot of times they want you to be a member. This whole thing just rolled up on me. Hi, Mika. This whole thing just rolled up on me because the opportunity was presented. And I prayed about that. And I said, man, sometime when opportunity knocks, should I push back and go, well, it's not that much time? I said, you know what, Lord? Greater things have you done, and I know I can do it because greater
mm.
is he that is in me than he that's in the world. So I said, yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity and run with it and have faith, and I'm going to take it all the way. And hello, and little Mika wants to say hello. Hi, Mika.
Hello,
Hello.
Mika.
Hello, Mika. Hello.
Happy
No,
New
no,
Year.
no kisses necessary. Anyway, so, but this is really about, honestly, us getting prepared for 2026. And I'd like to advise people that whatever it is that wasn't accomplished in 2025, it maybe it was just timing, maybe it was circumstances. I don't think that we should really get down and depressed about this.
Mhm,
Take a deep breath. Thank God that we've seen, now we've got another fresh new year. It's a fresh start. So
mhm,
whatever that you need to clear out, things that you need to let go, things that you need to kind of hit the reset button. Hey,
mm,
2026 is here. You might as well let it go. Let 2025 go because it is over. Whatever
mhm,
happened or didn't happen, no need to kick yourself. No need to get upset about it. Just say, okay, well, you know, didn't happen 2025. I have a brand new fresh year. So we just need to pray, prepare ourselves. And if it's our health, our finances,
mm,
education, job opportunities, projects around the house, Lord knows I got some projects. I got some
mhm,
projects. And and business ventures, dreams and vision and goals. You know what? It's time to tap in. And
mhm,
I and I
mhm,
and I know that, you know, uh, just matter of fact, I was trying to think back to what the pastor was the sermon, yesterday was about, but the pastor was just talking about, it was well, it was one of the things, it was he was in the passage when Jesus was in the boat and he was asleep, and
mhm,
everybody was panicking, and the pastor says, "That was me, I was the guys that's panicking."
mhm,
And he says the Lord got up and says, "What is everybody panic about?" And they're like, "Oh, the boat's gonna sink. Save us. Why are you doing this?" And
mm,
he and the Lord, and what the pastor said was, that wasn't just a storm that just rolled up. He says, "I believe it was even a demonic attack that
mm,
was
mm,
disturbing." And the Lord got up and said, "Hey," and he spoke to the winds and said, "Hey, be still." and
Mhm.
everything calmed down. And that's what but the Lord was also saying, we have that power to tap into for our lives to be able to speak power
Mhm.
over things that most people don't believe. They go, "Oh, you know, I
Mm.
don't know about that." Well, you better start speaking the word and the power over your life and over your things and over your family and really putting your faith in motion because
Mhm.
these gifts were given to us. These were gifts
Yes.
and
Yes.
and one of the things the pastor was talking about was he said, "I've gotta go away." He says, "I must go away so that I can send you the comforter, which is the Holy Spirit." And
Mhm.
so that is our advocate. So that little still voice that we hear and don't do that. Trust me, that is our advocate. That is the one that was here to help us. And so you think about all these things and
Yeah, and the Holy
yeah,
Spirit is not just our, if you will, like our conscience that's telling
right.
us, "Oh, that's not a good idea, you shouldn't do
That's
that,
right.
you don't wanna go that direction." He's
Mhm.
also given us the mind of Christ so
That's
that
right.
we're thinking the way God thinks,
That's right.
and
That's right.
He's already put into us, He's helping us understand what God has said in the Scriptures and believe what
Mhm.
God has already said is true. And
Yes,
that's so
yes.
often what we're not doing is we're not believing what God has said is
Mhm.
true. We can even quote back what God has said, but
Mhm.
we live, and think like it's not true. I was
That's
thinking
right.
when, like I said, when you came up with this, topic, and I was like,
Mhm.
I want to be more in tune with God.
Right. Oh,
In
wow.
the coming year, in the rest of my life, really, I want to be more in tune with God. How do I do that? And
Mm.
right away, what came to mind was Micah 6.
Mm.
In Micah 6, um, God is talking here, and he says, "I know you're asking yourselves, with what shall I come before God to get his
Mhm.
favor, to get his
Wow.
attention?" And he points out, he says, "Are you thinking you're gonna come before me with all these offerings, and
Mhm.
that's gonna get my attention, and that's gonna get my favor?" Oh, like God can
Mhm.
be bribed or something. But he's like, you are planning to make all these sacrifices, you know?
Mm. Yeah.
God, I'm gonna sacrifice this if it will get your attention and get you to do
Right.
these things for me. And he says, "No." Let me find that verse here. It says,
Mm.
"He has shown you, O man, what
Mhm.
is good and what God requires of you,
Mhm. Yeah.
but to do justly,
Yeah.
to love kindness." In
Right.
some versions, it says to love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God.
Mhm.
And when I
Wow.
think of those 3 things, I'm like, we already know a lot of times what is just, and
Mhm.
we know what mercy looks like because 'cause we've all received it,
Yes,
you
we
know?
have.
We know what kindness looks like. We know when we could be kind, and a lot of times
Mhm.
we aren't. Sometimes, though, being just and being kind, we have a
Mhm.
hard time figuring out how to accomplish both. Because what is
Mhm.
kind for one person might not be just for another, and what is
Right.
just for a person, one person, might not be kind to another.
Mhm.
So trying to figure that out, and I started thinking about, "Oh my goodness, how does God do this?" In his
Right.
infinite wisdom that
Yep.
I don't pretend to know how to figure out how to be just and kind at the same time, how to affect
Mhm.
both. But God does
Mhm.
it all the time, and we can trust that in the end, He is going to make everything just, and His
Right.
mercy will still be there, new every morning and everlasting.
I have to
So,
tell you,
I think
I
that
was in
last point
mhm.
is the
Go
one that
ahead.
tells us how to marry those 2, to walk
Right.
humbly with your God,
Mhm.
because God will show us. God will tell us what it is that we need to do, how to marry those 2 things together in
Mhm.
ways that we would not have even thought about
And
because it
I have
will
to
be
tell
His
you,
wisdom.
And I have to tell you, when we really take a personal assessment, to the things that how we have been so blessed, because there are so many things that could have went really, really wrong, and how God's mercy has just saved us. And,
Mhm.
really, I mean, everything from, I mean, there are situations that, they're just little simple things that you think like you are in the middle of something, and you really are, it could have went the wrong way. I mean, really could have been bad.
Mhm.
I'm so thankful for those things that, I didn't have the outcome that could have happened. It could have, and I always say, well, Rodney, it could have been worse. And
Mhm.
and I think about that, and you don't want that. And you should be really thankful for all of the blessed things that we have. And, even the Lord's correction. A lot of times some things, and a lot of times some people feel like, oh, well, this is just, you know, the Lord's doing this to me. He really isn't. Sometimes he is protecting us from
Mhm.
things. And sometimes it might feel like you're being chastised, or it might sting, but more than likely in due time, once all the smoke clears, you start to realize like, well, maybe there was something there that I didn't realize. And
Mhm.
again, it's that infinite wisdom of how the Lord takes care of us, and how he's already there. He's in the
Yeah.
future. So
And
it,
how
you know,
his mercy is so
mhm.
infinite too, because,
Yep.
a lot of times we think of the big things in life. "Oh, God was so
Mhm.
merciful to me because he spared me, saved
Mhm.
my life during this accident or through this illness," or,
Oh,
"He was
wow.
so merciful to me because he took care of my loved one when, something hard happened," or,
Mhm.
maybe I had a financial reversal and,
Right.
uh or didn't know where the money was coming from for something, and
Right.
God dramatically surprised. We
Right.
think of all those things, but
Mhm.
Rodney, every day, God's
Mhm.
mercy is new to us every morning. The
Every
things
morning.
we don't think about,
Mhm.
you're able to breathe today. Who do you think
Yes.
controls that?
I know. I
You
know
know?
who.
Yeah. He gives
Yep.
us breath every single day. Every single
Mhm.
day, he supplies
Mhm.
food for us. Every single day, he provides sunshine for
And you
us
know what?
and
And
light.
one other thing I think about, even when things don't go the way that you think it should, even if it's an illness, and you say, "Why, Lord, why couldn't that person have pulled through and that person
Mm,
passed away?" I started thinking, I was like, "But could you imagine that person?" Because we never know, and everybody should take their own personal assessment. And a lot of times when people get ill, that is time for them to really start to think about building that relationship and really assessing, are they connected? Are they really connected? And then I've been around people, I'm telling you, I've been around people who were sick, and they were connected, and the love that they spoke and the passion that they spoke to people, and said, "Don't worry." And it's almost mind blowing. You're like, "So you're not really worried?" They're like, I'm not really worried." And when that person does go, you can imagine them in
mm,
glory. You can imagine them happy, and just healthy. And just and
yes.
and and the things that they must see, or be able to behold, that's beyond anything that this world could ever hold. And I'm like, you know what? When you matter of fact, like I said, I lost my pop.
Yeah,
Well, I
why
didn't
would
lose him. Yeah, I didn't lose my pop. My pop passed away
yeah,
back in March. And
mhm,
I thought about it, and I said to myself, I said, "Yeah, but you know the type of person he was. He how he believed, And I'm like, and then I started thinking about, wow, what he must be seeing right now.
mhm,
How amazing that must be,
mhm,
as a believer. And I started thinking about that, and I said, you know, you can't be, Pop was 91. I'm like, that was a good run. That was a good run. And,
yeah,
Not saying it couldn't have been longer. It's never long enough by our
No,
understanding.
it never
Yeah,
feels long enough. But Rodney,
yeah.
I felt that way too when my son passed away when he was
Mhm.
3.5. And I found myself thinking, "Oh, if only I could have him back again, if only I could get to
Yeah,
see him grow up and get married and et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera." But then I would think about if I could have him back again, would I really want him to come back? Would I ask him to leave heaven to come back here?
no. Yeah,
No.
no,
No, I
no.
couldn't do that. I mean, how
Right,
could I
right.
that would feel so selfish. You gotta come back
True.
because I want you here. You gotta leave the paradise, the most perfect place there is,
Right.
and the presence of your Savior, you've gotta leave all that to come back here for me, and,
Why?
just
Yeah.
so I can watch you grow up? No, I couldn't do it.
See?
Couldn't
But
do it.
that comes with an understanding. You have that understanding, and you have studied, and you have shown yourself approved to understand that. And
Mm,
so that's what a lot of people must do. I mean, that's what's gonna help us, really get through the rocky times, the challenges, the things,
yeah,
the ups and the downs of life, and,
yeah. And
and
I think
it's beautiful.
one thing you're talking about there, Rodney, is that
Mhm.
walk
There you
humbly
go.
with our
Yeah.
God, because
Right.
that humility, that
Mhm.
humbleness is what says
Yeah.
to, our ability to say to him, "It may not make sense to me,
Right.
and there may seem to be a lot about it that just feels so wrong, and yet, God, I
Mhm.
trust you. I trust you to
Right.
know better than I do. I trust that you're working everything to my good,
Mhm.
and not just mine, but everyone who calls upon
Mhm.
your name, who believes in you
That's
and
right.
trusts you, that you're working everything for our good.
That's
And
right.
that in the end, you know what you're doing. And, you
Mhm.
know, so even if I pray for something and God says no, or I pray for
Not
something
right
and
now,
God says
or
yes,
not
but it
right
doesn't
now.
come out the way, or not right now,
Right. Or
or He
not right
says
now.
yes and it still doesn't come out the way I was expecting, you know?
Mhm.
Sometimes it comes out far better than you were
Oh,
expecting.
oh, yeah. For
Yeah.
me, like I said, I have had things that seemed like it was gonna crash and burn, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Boy, this is ugly." And at the end, I was like, "Wow, this thing really turned around." It really went a complete unexpected direction then
Mm.
I didn't even see it coming. So that's what lets me know that sometimes it's better to just, hunker down and have faith that, that you're gonna get through these things. And a lot of times people they forget that there's a hope for tomorrow, and even when things are just don't seem its best, there's always a chance for tomorrow. There's always a better way of doing things. And so, you know,
Mhm.
I think that's a cool thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
not to dwell so much on the things that were that we would have loved to have kept because we liked them so much, but when they're
Mhm.
gone, to be able
Yeah.
to let those things go and
Yeah.
say, God is still able to bring along other things, better things,
Mhm.
good things
Mhm.
that are still gonna be a blessing in my
Yep.
life. So that's one
Yeah.
of the things I'm praying for this year as well, is that I'll be even
Mhm.
more open to letting go of things that,
Yeah.
you know, nothing lasts forever. And even
Right.
though you may want it to, it may feel like, and sometimes we feel, um, I don't know, we get offended at God, like we had a right to keep that because it was good. And
Yeah.
God says, there's other things that I need to move you toward that are even better than this, but
That's
you
right.
can't get there as long as you're stuck here. So
That's
as
right.
good as
Yeah,
this
people
was, you need to keep moving on. Yeah.
and we spend a lot of time holding on to things, and sometimes it's better to just let go and open up our hands and let the Lord place in our hands really
Yes.
what we need. I mean, a lot of times things that we need or we think we need, we may or we may not.
Mhm.
because and matter of fact, woo, Lord, for 2026, I want to streamline. I mean, I have a tendency to have a lot of paperwork and things like that. And what I want to do is streamline. I mean, really cut down, get a CRM. I need to get all my data and things in a more organized fashion. But again, um, it's just about and having more time to be able to just to really just relax,
Mhm.
pray, think, just be at peace and stuff and not have to deal with the noise and the chatter of the world and clutter and
Busyness.
some
Yeah.
and the busyness, because that's the thing that kind of trips up a lot of people. It's the busyness, and I'm really trying to streamline that for 2026.
Mhm. To
Yep,
fix our attention where it really needs to be.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
on the things that are really important, not on the busyness.
Right. And so what do you think Nina, what do you think the America's gonna start to look like in 2026? I know this is like,
Oh,
kind
wow.
of like a shot. Where do you think things are gonna head? Or
Ooh,
where would you
that's
hope?
where do I hope it heads?
Yeah.
Honestly, the one thing that I think more than anything I would love to see, I
Mhm.
would love to see the divide that I see in this
Mhm.
country.
Mhm.
I would love to see that come down and people start realizing, "Oh, wait a minute. There are good people on the
Right.
other side of, what I'm thinking."
That's
Not
right.
Yeah. And is there evil in the world? Yes, there is. Are
Sure
there
is.
evil people? Yes, there are. But
Mhm.
I'd rather, see us instead of assuming that just because someone is in one camp or the other camp, that therefore
Mhm.
they must be evil,
Right.
recognize, you know what? They might be, there might be evil going on in that camp, but maybe they're deceived themselves and don't understand that, and don't realize
Mhm.
that they need rescuing from it.
Right.
Maybe there's actually a lot of good going on in that camp, and someone has just told us some things that we
Mhm.
shouldn't be believing because they're not true, and we don't know they're not true. You know
Right.
what you were talking about before with,
Mhm.
there's so much that's false out there,
Right.
and I was thinking about there's one particular, I wanna say he's a journalist, I'm not sure, but I think he's a journalist. But one of his friends called him one day and said, "Hey, I some so and so wrote this article about you, and it says you
Mhm.
were arrested for all these terrible things, you know."
Right.
And he's like, "And I know that's not true, but did you know he's saying this about you?" So the journalist called up the other guy who wrote the article, and he was like, "None of what you said is true. Why would you say that?" And the
Mhm.
jour the guy who wrote the article said, "Well, I went to AI, and I asked AI to do the research, and AI told me that, you had been arrested and that you had been charged, and there had been a grand jury indictment, and it gave me case
Wow.
numbers for, the
Mhm.
court dates and everything." And the journalist says, "Send me everything. I wanna see all that." And so he sends it to
Mhm.
him, and then one by one, he looks up everything that AI had said, about,
Mhm.
okay, and AI even produced documents that looked real about, "See,
Mhm.
here's the court case, here's the court documents
Mhm.
with it." And he went and looked them all up in those, counties where it was supposedly happening,
Mhm.
and of course, the case numbers were fake, the
Right.
documents were fake, and so
Mhm.
then they go back to AI and they said, "Did you make this up?" And it said, "Well, yeah, I thought you were looking for a certain thing, so I put together something to give you what you wanted."
Wow.
Isn't that stunning? Yeah,
Well,
and of course, the guy
again,
who wrote the article had to print a retraction, but a lot of the
mhm.
damage is done because a lot of people aren't gonna see the retraction, they're just seeing the other part, and now his
Right.
reputation has been smeared. So of course he's suing, um,
Right.
trying to claw back what of his reputation he can. Um, but that's
Mm.
the sort of thing I would love for people to become more wary about the things that
Mhm.
they're hearing about other people and about
That's
different
right.
sides on an issue, and start
That's right.
thinking, "Wait a minute, there's real people on that side, and I want to honestly understand why they're on that side of things. It looks
Right.
wrong to me, but it's got to look right to them, so, what
Mhm.
is it?" And people do have different priorities, but, if people would just I would love to see people really start communicating and talking
Mhm.
again, believing the
Right.
best about each other until they have reason to believe otherwise.
Mhm.
And I
That's
mean
right.
real reason, not just rumors, not just somebody else telling you how terrible they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, what I try to do is really put myself in other people's shoes, and I try to, about all types of stuff. When I try to think about, I'm like, man, how would you like to be on that side of that conversation? And I'm
Mhm.
like, man, so a lot of people and people chime in on things. Yeah, there might be a person going through a challenge or a problem or something, and then people just start bombing. They just want to throw their
Mhm.
action in. And I just, I say to myself, and it really kind of goes back to those tried and true things. If you don't have something nice to say, just keep it to yourself because that kind of keeps a lot of this down. It kind of, suppresses a lot of stuff because now people's words are like fuel. And if there's a little brush fire going on, people can start talking and this thing will turn into an inferno. And so
Mm,
so I try to stay out of the inferno business. I try to,
yeah.
whatever it is, even if it is wrong, we can take the option to pray for that person or that entity or whatever it is, and just kind of stand back and watch and see how God's going to work this thing out.
Yes. Yeah.
We are not the one to come in and try to, um, force all this stuff. But I think that yes, we do have our part, and that's why we vote. That's why, and again, just like you know,
Yeah.
uh,
It's
our
so much of what we're hearing from different factions is an appeal
mhm,
to fear. We
right,
want you to
right,
be afraid because that's what will motivate you to act and do what we want you to do. There is a lot of
mhm,
manipulation there. So what I'd
right,
love to
and that,
see instead
yeah,
is
and
people
that's one,
have the confidence because there's a reason in scripture it says perfect love casts out fear. If we
that's right.
really believe that God loves us and that God
Mhm,
is taking care of us, then
mhm,
we don't have to buy in to that fear and
that's right.
and, panic. We can instead
Mhm,
go to God and say, "Tell me the truth about this. Tell me what I should be thinking
right,
about
right,
this. Show me how to honor even those people that I disagree with so
mhm.
that we
How to
can
honor
come
you.
together."
That's
Yes, and
right.
honor you.
How to honor you first, even in
Yeah.
these situations, and then I you're absolutely right. I think
Mhm.
that, and I think if more people looked at these situations for what it's for for what it is, and again, there is a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of false information and half truths. That's the problem. That is the
Mhm.
most dangerous part, you know, of especially of information is a half truth, some kind of truth, but then there's a bunch of crazy stuff mixed in it, and so hopefully we will be ahead of that because now we have to be very vigilant about our information and we
Mhm.
have to cross check everything and keep things buttoned down. We really need to keep things buttoned down because we don't want, oh, what do you, boy, this girl, I'm actually having to give her a hug today because she is like, I don't know why she's so, anyway, but the, I think that between, um, what we have already seen in
Mhm.
2025 has given us a good indication of how we could be better for 2026.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at myself. I always start with the man in the mirror. I think everybody needs to do that,
Mhm.
and or woman, and look in the mirror and understand our place in this whole thing and how we can make our own impact. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
hopefully, we can bring to the uh to the world in our own little way to make
Mhm.
it better,
Mhm.
and so and by showing more love and understanding and compassion and get things done.
Yeah.
Because there's a
Yeah.
lot that needs to get done.
So true. So true. I love what you said before about half truths. You
Yep.
know, how often it's like what you hear might be true, but maybe they're not telling you everything either. And
Mhm.
it makes me think of a story that our pastor
Mhm.
told. It was some time ago, but I hope I remember it correctly. He was talking about on a ship, and
Mhm.
there was the fella who was charged with keeping a log on the ship,
Mhm.
everything that happened on the ship and what the ship, was doing. And one day he was late to his post. He had other things,
Mhm.
you know, he kept the log, but he had other things he had
Mhm.
to do too. And one day he was late to his post because one of the
Mhm.
senior officers had commanded him to go do something else. And he did
Right.
it, and because you're supposed to obey orders, but then he was late to
Mhm.
his post because of it. And the captain said, well, then I want you to write in the log that you were late
Mhm.
to your post. And
Wow.
the fellow said, well, can I write in there too that what the reason was? He said, no, is it true or is it not that you were late? And he said, well, yes. And he said, then that's what you write. Well, the guy
Right.
didn't like this, of course. Well,
Right.
the next day, the captain comes and he's checking the log to make sure that this fellow had written in there. And he saw that the fellow had also written in there,
Why?
today, the captain appeared on the con sober.
Mhm.
The
Oh.
captain was like, well, that makes it sound like, and the guy said, is it true or is it not? And the captain said, well,
Wow.
yeah, it's true. And the guy said, then it stands. So he was trying to, make a point. You can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
half the truth, but sometimes the way you tell it or the things you
That's
imply
right.
by it, the stuff you leave out is just as
That's right.
important. Context.
Context. That's right.
Context. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Nina, again, we've been talking to everybody about a blessed start for 2026. And I think that we want to be able to really wish everybody a blessed start to
Mhm.
2026. We extend our prayers and best wishes for every family, every person that's been a supporter that has watched and been on with us. We appreciate you hanging in there for a whole year
We
with
do.
us and
We do. We
and
thank
and
you so much.
beyond. And we look forward to great shows. There's some great content that's coming. We got
Mhm.
some great pending interviews and some things that we're working on right now. So we look forward to uh, a bright and prosperous 2026. We really mean that.
We do. We
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today and for all the times you've been with us this past year. You have really
Yeah.
blessed us just by being here. We love to see you in the comments too. And we're looking forward to a bright, yes, a bright new year. Because, like Rodney said, we have a lot planned, and we're really excited about what we're going to be able to bring you, I think, this
Yep.
year. So, and Rodney, Happy New
Yep.
Year.
Hey, happy new year to you too, Nina. God bless you and your family. Glad your
You.
brother's doing better and everything. And your
Yes, that's one of
daughters, they're
God's
doing
big mercies to
yep,
us this
they're
year was my brother. Yeah.
yeah, that's enough.
So,
See,
yeah.
great blessings, That was amazing, miraculous turnaround for him and that just remarkable,
It really was. And
real.
honestly, because of
Mhm.
where his cancer was, the cancer, for those of you that don't know, was in the upper palate of his mouth, and they had to remove the whole upper palate and have surgery in that area and repair things with bone and tissue from his leg. And I think my brother thought, and frankly, I think the rest of us thought too, that he was going to be disfigured
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that. But I tell you what they were able to do is just phenomenal. Because to look at him, you would never know. You would never
Wow,
know that anything had happened. It's amazing.
wow,
Yeah, and he's
incredible.
alive, and he's alive and cancer
That's
free. So,
that's right. Oh, what
yeah,
a blessing.
yeah,
Well,
we just feel so blessed. Yeah.
good
So,
story,
y'all,
good
thank you for being with us this year, and we gotta say goodbye now. It's that time.
yep, that's it.
Bye, Mika. And y'all
Yep.
be of good courage. God is with us, and we aren't alone. Bye, everybody.
Have a blessed rest of 2025 and let's go. Let's get ready for 2026. God bless you and see you back here again on the chat session on the This Way Network.
Amen.